my name's Nicole, and welcome back to Reading Out of Season. I have been reading a list about 26 rules for readers in 2026, and it seems like a lot of people have come across this list out in the booktube world. I saw it from a channel by Bookish Bibliophile. I will link that down below. And I've seen other people have kind of been writing about it too. How I have never heard of the writer of this list. I think he publishes self-help books, and it sounds to me like the kind of a list that would be written by somebody who publishes self-help books. So that makes sense to me. Anyway, I am going to respond to them as well as other people are, because as I'm reading these, I had a lot of the same responses that Greg from A Bookish Bibliophile had. I think he said bull crap or horse crap over and over again. I might not have those exact words for my response, but I think I probably have a similar general reaction to the list. So let's get into it, shall we? The first one, it is not enough that you read. You have to read well. You have to read the right books. So, who determines what the right books are? Are they books written by the guy who came up with this list? I bet he considers his own books to be the right books. I respond very negatively to this, though. You know, reading can be just entertaining. People can just have fun reading. We don't tell people they have to watch the right movies, or, why on earth do people have to read particular books? Read what you like. There are so many books out there. Read what you enjoy reading. You do not have to improve yourself with every book you read, or with any if you don't want to. I mean, just read books. You have to read the right books. There are no right books, and if there were, whose determination would that be? How about if I come up with a list of the right books are, and I will put all the books that this guy hates. Number 2, you should always be carrying a book: phone, wallet, keys, and a book. Now, I typically do carry my Nook around with me in case I am like waiting for one of my kids to finish with something, or I end up waiting places a lot. And I do like having a book around. However, I don't know. I guess I am, I read a lot. Not everybody reads as much as I do. I think if you want to read a lot, like if you have a goal of reading more than you currently read, that can be a good idea. I don't like the should on it. I mean, should? No, I mean, you could always be carrying a book, and then you would have more opportunities to read. I think it would be better written like that. Number 3, if you're not reading with a pen, you're not really reading. What does that mean? What does that mean that you have to read with a pen? You read with your eyes or your ears if you're listening to an audiobook, but no, you don't have to read with a pen. And this is why I thought that this list does sound like it's written by somebody who writes nonfiction, especially self-help books, because it sounds like that you should be taking information from the books that you plan to apply in your life. And if you're reading a self-help book, maybe it would be helpful to have a pen with you so that you can write down the things you think will help. But I don't read self-help books, and I don't need a pen when I read. I did get the Nook with a little stylus, so I will sometimes highlight something if I kind of want to be able to look at it later, or underline something. But no, you don't need a pen. You could have a pen if you want to. You don't need a pen. Books are not precious things. It should look like you've read the book. Mark it up. Fold pages. Beat them up. So I can kind of see a little bit of what he's going for here. Not all books are precious. Like, if you love reading, there will be certain books that are probably precious for you, and there are probably books that aren't so precious. And so maybe if you can, it's okay. I would say this: it's okay to mark up a book, and it's okay to full pages if it's your own book and you're not borrowing it from somebody. I mean, it's your book. However, I don't think it's a necessity. And if it is a really favorite book that you love so much, it's a beautiful edition, and you want to pass it on to your children or something, no, that would be a pretty precious book. So I think in this case, I would say it depends. Number 5, spilling food on a book is a sign of respect. Some of the best meals of my life occurred over a book, and the stains prove it. Well, I do enjoy reading and eating at the same time sometimes, although usually, I guess I'm not usually reading when I eat. However, I could be, and I think that's fine. However, I'm kind of grossed out by the idea of food stains in a book. There's nothing worse than if you check a book out from the library and it's got food stains in it. If it is your own book and nobody else is going to read it, I guess, but I don't know. Does that like attract bugs or something? It seems kind of generally gross to me. I think I would, if I were reading and I had a paper book with me, I would be pretty darn careful not to spill anything on it. Number 6, forget the news. The best way to understand what's happening in the world is by reading books, usually old books. So, in my earlier years, I studied English and journalism, and I worked as a newspaper reporter for several years. And I would say the news can give you a lot of information about what's happening in the world, although it doesn't necessarily. The news is written by people, and those people could be biased or have constraints placed on them by their workplace. There's a lot that can go on there. I think if you want to know what's happening in the world at that moment, you probably want to read news sources from different places, like from your country and other countries. You don't want to settle on just one news source and assume you're getting all the information. And you should be paying attention to independent local journalists. So if you have a local newspaper, please consider subscribing to it, because local journalism is kind of the heart of journalism in all. And I do subscribe to my local newspaper here. So, on the other hand, if you want to understand what's happening in the world in kind of a bigger picture way, I think reading books is a great way to do that, because you can get you need different perspectives in order to really understand what's happening. And reading books is a way of seeing things from other people's perspective. So that can be really valuable, that to be, because it can help you to look at what's happening in the world and understand it in a different way or more completely. So yes and no, I'd say to that one. Number 7, a lot of people read, not enough people reread. Now, rereading, I never used to reread when I was young. I just didn't understand why I would ever reread anything. But of course, I was young then, and now I love rereading. There is nothing more fun than finding an old book that what I remember most about it is that I absolutely loved it, and then reading it again and kind of getting to have that joy with it again. So I would say yes, rereading is an amazing thing. Um and probably more people should do it. So that one, yeah, sure. Number 8, rereading is the best way out of a reading slump or a dry spell. Um I don't think probably it is for me. I find if I'm having a reading slump that sometimes reading a classic is the best way to get me out of that. And it's because, classics become classics for a reason. It's because they remain popular for a very, very long period of time, and usually they're popular for a reason. So I'll start looking up, online, looking up lists of classics recommended or what, and I look for one that's not too long and that isn't that the flowering is pretty contemporary. I usually get something from the earlier part of the 20th century rather than something Victorian, let's say. And then I find that that is a good way to get out of a reading slump for me. However, who knows? This is an individual thing, and there might be people who reread a favorite book and that gets them out of their slump. The only thing is, I have known people who read the same couple of books over and over again, and I don't think you want to read the same book too many times. I mean, by all means, reread your favorites, and Get some new favorites. Read some new stuff too. Number 9, don't be a book snob. Now, I agree with this. However, I find it interesting that he writes not to be a book snob, but also says that it's not enough to have read. You have to read well and read the right books. I mean, that's a book snobbish comment, isn't it? So, yes, don't be a book snob, and therefore ignore number 1. Everybody should be able to read the books they like. There are no rules about what books are the right ones. One person's favorite is going to be something somebody else doesn't like and thinks is worthless. And don't let other people tell you what books are right for you. Number 10, never read without taking extracts. This is another one where you can tell it's a self help writer or a person who writes self help books who wrote this because he is thinking of people reading his own books and that they should be taking information out of them to use in their lives. And most books, you don't need to take information out of them. Most books, for me, most books are just entertainment. I just read them because I enjoy reading them. Number 11, if a book sucks, stop reading it. The best readers actually quit a lot of books. So first of all, yes, not all books are good from an objective standpoint, but also subjectively, not all books are right for all people. So by all means, if you come across a book that is not the right book for you for whatever reason, don't feel guilty about it. Stop reading it. I would say try to give it a chance. You know, if you are consistently only reading the first page of books, then you might not be giving the books a chance. That's the only caveat I would have there. Number 12, the rule for quitting books is 100 pages minus your age. So that's, I guess, his rule for DNFing. Let's see. So that would be 40 something pages for me. Um, I don't have any rules. I mean, I try to give a little bit of time for the characters and the plot to get going because sometimes books don't start off in a way that catches me, but they do end up catching me really well. I don't think I have a number on it. If a number helps you, I don't know why that number is better than any other one, though. I mean, come up with a number and decide that's right for you. Let's see. Number 13, good writers and good books are not hard to read. I disagree with that too. I mean, if you're writing a self help book, maybe that should be easy to read, or people aren't going to be able to get the information. But a lot of fiction books take a little bit more work to read and can be very, they can have a lot of value. That will create even more enjoyment for you. I would say no, there are plenty of good books that are harder to read, and there are plenty of good books that are very easy to read. That is not the definition of what is a good book. Number 14, a long book must justify itself. Um, I think I do kind of agree with that. If you feel like your book is worth 1,000 pages, you better have 1,000 pages worth of content. It better be an idea that warrants 1,000 pages and have enough going on in it to warrant 1,000 pages. If you're just wanting a long book just to have a long book, that's not worth anything. So I'll agree with that one. What's a book that changed your life is a question that will change your life. Ask people you admire for book recommendations. Ask people you admire for book recommendations is a good suggestion, so I'll just go with it. 16, cool titles usually make for crappy books. No, I don't think there's any relationship whatsoever. Disagree. Not that I think cool titles make for cool books or crappy titles make for crappy books. I just think there's no relationship whatsoever. Number 17, don't judge a book by its cover, but also you kind of should. I can see what he's getting at here. On one hand, the book is not what its cover is. On the other hand, the book is being marketed toward the people it was intended for, and those are likely to be the people who are going to most appreciate the book. So, if the book is marketed toward you, that might be an indication that you are a good audience for that book. So, I guess I can kind of see the point here. Number 18, look for wisdom, not facts. We're not reading to just find random pieces of information. What's the point of that? We're reading to accumulate a mass of true wisdom that you can turn to and apply in your actual life. So I agree with learn for wisdom. Look, if you're wanting to learn something, wisdom is more important than facts. I agree with that, but again, this seems to be talking more about nonfiction books, and so I think he's talking about how people should read his books. If you're just reading because you like reading, you don't. I don't know. And on the other hand, there is wisdom gained in reading great books. So I don't know. I think this is awkward, but not completely untrue. 19. When great readers read, they ask themselves a simple question: what do I plan to do with this information? Well, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, I read a lot of murder mysteries, and I'm not wondering how to murder people. I have no intention of ever doing that. I no. What do I plan to do with this information? Figure out how to commit a crime and have all the doors locked so people can't figure out how it happened? No, I don't plan to do anything with the information. I'm just having fun reading a book. Number 20. In every book you read, try to find your next one in its footnotes or bibliography. Well, that's obviously written about nonfiction books, and it would make you never read fiction books. So, no, I just I have more books. I don't have any problem finding another book, and I'm not going to be looking in footnotes of the previous book, or I'd always be reading the same basic types of books. I guess if you're only reading self-help books, maybe there's value in that. I don't know. 21. When you find an author you love, read all the books they've written. So I'm going to say no. Read what you want and don't read what you don't want. I will also say that I have decided that I'm going to try and read every book written by Agatha Christie just because I feel like it. However, I do not make such a rule about everything. It's just I decided I will for fun. And if I change my mind at some point, that will be fine too. Number 22. If you see a book you want, buy it. Don't worry about the price. Reading is not a luxury. It's not something you splurge on. It's a necessity. Oh, I could not possibly disagree with this more. And if you want to know how much I disagree with this, please go to my channel and find the video called Stop Spending So Much Money on Books. But I will say a little bit about it here. First of all, this is obviously somebody who writes and sells books. Yeah, like I sell books. Please spend all your money getting books. Don't worry about rent or food or whatever. Just buy books. No, people live in the real world and people have to decide what to spend their money on and have to budget. And buying a brand new book at full price is a splurge, and sometimes it's worth it, but there are lots of ways to read without doing that. Again, I have a video all about that. There are lots of ways to be an avid reader and not spend tons of money, and I think this is actually kind of dangerous. There, not everybody's in the same financial situation, and some people need to not hear that they should spend as much money as they want on books. Where are we next? Number 23. Speed reading is a scam. You just have to spend a lot of time reading. Um, let's see. I don't think speed reading is a scam necessarily. I just don't see any value in it. People read at different speeds, and I think that's okay. I don't think I'd want to read too quickly because I'm afraid I wouldn't take enough in, but that's kind of a personal thing. I read relatively quickly, and I'm happy with where I am. I don't think people are scamming if they read a lot or read very quickly. I think maybe they found what works for them. I don't know. I am not in other people's heads and I can't make any judgments on that. Number 24, your aim as a reader is to understand why something happened. The what is secondary. Before I start a book, fiction especially, I almost always find a summary to get a sense of the plot and core themes. It saves me from spending half the book in the dark trying to figure out what's going on. Oh my God, I could not possibly disagree more. I love going into a book without knowing anything and just being completely surprised. I avoid spoilers at all costs. Now, this is another thing that's very subjective. Different people feel differently about it, but my aim of for a my aim as a reader is to have a good time reading a book. It's not to understand why something happened and not care about what. I want to have this experience of reading a book. It's a it's just fun. Books can be just fun. So yes, I disagree with that. Number 25, your nightstand should be ambitious. Don't just build a library, build an anti-library, a stack of unread books that humbles you and reminds you just how much there is still to learn. Now this is again shows that this is a list by somebody who writes books and wants people to buy them and buy all of them. Your nightstand should have all of his books on it, and whether or not you're going to read them anytime soon, just have his books there. That's ridiculous. Have the book you're working on, maybe the one you want to read next. You don't need to have tons and tons of books. You don't need to be buying a whole bunch of books, and which maybe you'll read or maybe you won't, or maybe you'll read in a year or two when they're half price. You don't need to do that. So I disagree with that. 26. Read like a spy in the enemy's camp. Wisdom is wisdom. Take it from wherever it comes. And you should read books and writers you disagree with. Uh, well, wisdom is wisdom. Take it from wherever it comes. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you can find wisdom in all sorts of strange places. Sure. Read books and writers you disagree with. I mean, sometimes, sure, I guess I'll read. I'm not likely to read nonfiction by some, I don't know. I guess maybe. I'm going to give it a maybe. There are people I disagree with, and if they put a book out, I wouldn't read it. And there are also people I disagree with where if I buy their book, I know they're going to take their money and help groups and organizations that make people's lives unpleasant. And I'm thinking mainly of a writer who shall not be named, who writes books with a villain who shall not be named. And no, I'm not going to enrich her and help her to hurt people. So I guess yes and no. I would say I'm not going to necessarily avoid all books written by people I disagree with, but I don't feel any particular obligation to buy them either. Number 27. If you find yourself only underlining and agreeing with authors you read, you are not reading diversely or critically enough. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a good idea to read from a lot of different perspectives from people with lots of different life experiences. Diverse reading is beneficial in just opening up your mind and opening up your perspective on the world. Oh, I guess I agree with that, although my idea of reading diversely and his might not be the exact same thing. I think his is mainly just about whether or not people have the same viewpoint or agree on maybe political views with you. I think reading diversely is more about people who have different life experiences. So we might read that differently. Number 28, don't be satisfied in just getting the gist of things. Go deep. So, nah, I mean, I don't read a ton. I do read some nonfiction and I enjoy just getting little bits of information. I don't really feel like I guess I'm just not up on that one. Number 29, good things happen in bookstores. So many of my favorite books are just random things I grabbed at bookstores. So, yes and no. I mean, yes, I have found books I enjoyed just by buying them at bookstores, but again, this is very consumerist. I mean, it's very much just come into my bookstore and buy some books and spend some money. And while it's fun to just go into a bookstore occasionally and buy things, I don't think it's really very healthy to have your fun being shopping. So, I mean, how about this? Good things happen in libraries. So many of my favorite books are just random things I grabbed at libraries. If we could change it to that, I think I'd be happier with it. 30. Prefaces and forewords are there for a reason. Don't skip them. They often have a ton of helpful and interesting stuff about the context around when the person was writing, who the work ended up influencing, and other tidbits that sometimes stick with you longer than even the work itself. Well, I disagree with that. I don't like spoilers. I like to go into books without expecting anything. If it was part of the original book when it was originally published, then yes, I like to read it. If it has been added after the fact by somebody else, or anything really, if it has been added after the fact, I probably am not going to read it because I am afraid it is going to spoil the book in any way, shape, or form. And I like to go into the book not knowing what to expect. However, again, he thinks you should already know the plot of the book, or much of the plot of the book. So he and I have completely different views about that. And then number 31, if a book is really good, recommend it and pass it along to other people. Well, I totally agree with that. I think that if I love a book, I love passing it on to other people. And there have been times where I have loved a book that I've bought on my Kobo, or I've read on my Kobo, and then I've gone to the local bookstore here and I have purchased the book because I wanted to give it to somebody else to read. So, as much as I'm anti-consumerist, it doesn't mean I don't consume anything. I just means I think consumerism for the sake of consumerism is bad. I will buy a book if I want it, and I will buy a book as a gift. I love, if I'm giving a gift to someone, it's probably a book, or it's, if they're a reader, it's probably a book. I'm not going to force somebody to be a reader who doesn't want to be. Although maybe in that case, I give them a book and whatever I was going to give them anyway. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I responded pretty negatively to several of these, and I think a lot of people did, which is why I think people are having fun responding to to this list. And so I will leave that there, and please let me know what you agree with or what you disagree with. Really, this is just a lot of fun, isn't it? Just people talking to each other about bookish stuff. It's nothing to take too seriously. And I hope my responses are taken in that way. So thank you so much again for joining me. Please check out my other videos if you'd like, and please, give me a subscribe maybe. I'm still trying to build my channel. I'm trying to build a community of bookish people. I live in a new country. I live in Australia now, and I don't have a great number of people to talk about books with. And I would love if you were one of those people I could talk about books with. So please give me a like and subscribe so I can kind of get back and forth going with you. Thank you so much.